Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. I have a strategy show for you guys for the 2021 Mayakoba Golf Classic. Now, what do I cover in these videos? Well, I like to incorporate everything I have done in the beginning of the week, or since the beginning of the week. That includes the DFS preview show, as well as the course fit show. And what I want to do is grab the important things that I discovered in those and bring them to this one, as well as add a couple other components, which will be the Time Pairings. And I have a new player pool portion that I want to introduce. I did that during the review of the RSM Classic. I did it like I created that pool just after I created the strategy video for that tournament. And I actually got some pretty good positive feedback on it. So I'm going to, well, first of all, I created it for this one and I'm going to incorporate it in this video. So you can find everything in the description. Timestamps will be there, or I do have chapter mode enabled. So what you can do is use the red progress bar to track where you are or where you want to go. On mobile, I think all you have to do is just click your finger, or not click your finger, but press on the screen and hold that progress bar and move it up and down to find those segments. But anyways, timestamps are in the description. Let's go ahead and get into the spreadsheet. So I call this the dream sheet, but really it's just the new DraftKings sheet. So the new DK sheet. It has a ton of information. You know, I have my sweet spot segment here, which usually incorporates the bucket system, as well as salary and value. We have tournament information, so starting hole, tee time, and then the game that I call it. We'll get into that when we get into tee times. Golfer information. Course fit is empty, primarily because I didn't want to include any of the grass stats. Seashore Paspalum is the grass that we're on this week, and it really isn't anywhere on tour except for like the alternate events. So I just didn't find it to be that important for this tournament. Maybe in the future I will add it. I will have more data at that time. And plus we're going to have better golfers at these tournaments as opposed to it just being an alternate event. So I will include it next time, but for this tournament, I do not have it. We have recent form stats. So I look at the last 7 weeks. I put down their strokes gained, their scoring average, what their low round is, their DK average, just really trying to find the best scorers over the last 7 weeks. You know, who's hot and who's not. I also have a baseline, so season-long stats. This is whatever the PGA Tour provides us. It usually starts at the beginning of the season and goes all the way through. So that's exactly what you're seeing on the screen right now. And that's what I have captured under this segment. And then I also have the differences between recent form and baseline. This is really showing who's playing above their averages, essentially. You know, for the most part in these stats here, anything that's positive is good. Trying to find what would negative be, like if negative was good. And I want to say, is it the differential? It might be that. Either way, green is good. Yeah, there we go. Green is good. Red is bad. Colors of the stoplights on all of this. So just keep that in mind. We really won't cover the differences unless we really have to try to figure out some kind of tiebreaker, essentially. So let's go ahead and let's get into the first one. I usually always forget to do this until later in the video, but I think it's very smart to begin with tee time pairings. So let's go ahead and look at tee time pairings. So what I did, if I were to sort by this, is you can see I start on hole 1, and this is also how, you know, scorecard, if there was ever a scorecard playoff or to try to determine tee time pairings or anything of the sort, always starts on hole 1, always starts first tee time out. So game 1 belongs to the guys teeing off on hole 1 in the morning. Then game 2 goes to hole 10, so on and so forth. So that's how I, you know, basically give the number out to whatever pairing it is or whatever threesome it is. And you can see for the most part, you know, I have all threes included. There are some on here, let me try to find it, where they're not complete. So obviously DraftKings hasn't updated their pool. I'm not going to include them here. I did look at some of the names. Nothing to me is really relevant, so I didn't add it here. But when we scroll through this, what I want you guys to pay attention to is anything that's highlighted a color means that their scoring average is better than the field average. The more golfers in the group, the better the color ends up being. Again, it's the colors of the stoplight. So red is, you know, in this case, red is on their own. Yellow is going to be a pairing. That means 2 golfers in the group is under the scoring average, the field average for scoring average. This green color, it's the lightest shade of green. That means they themselves have their scoring average for the season long is lower than field average, as well as the recent form scoring average. So both of them are below field average, primarily meaning they are, you know, a better golfer and have been playing pretty decent, at least better than average for this field. The darker the green gets, like this is the premier group right here, Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland, and Joaquin Niemann. This is the darkest green you're going to see, but the darker the green, the more golfers are in the group that share that scoring average that is lower than field average, both in recent form as well as season long. So just so you guys understand that. And as we go through here, like the colors, there really aren't that many colors. It kind of seems that way. I guess when I first did this, it didn't seem like there were that many golfers to really go over. But why I think tee time pairings are important and why I think, you know, trying to find golfers that have a good scoring average or multiple golfers that have a good scoring average in the group is primarily because golfers feed off each other. So if we can find good scorers, they might feed off each other to shoot even lower. And that is a thing in golf. So we want to find those golfers. Now, the same thing occurs when someone's playing terrible, where if someone is playing bad golf, that can weigh on the group. You know, everyone's waiting for you to finish out. You know, you're going to already have kind of a bad attitude. You might, you know, pass it on to other people in your group, and that just brings the whole group down by itself. So also keep that in mind as well. It is not an exact science. I do see a lot of golfers, though, week in and week out at the top of the leaderboard that do have a color highlighted under their game. So really, I like to find at least one group and include those guys in my core. But I also like to really just use the color combination to use as tiebreakers and that sort. So I usually, let me go back a little bit. I usually like to grab 1 to 2 groups and kind of surround my lineups with those guys. So as we're going through, Chris Kirk has been playing decent as of late. He actually has a pretty decent rank in the SweetSpot score, which I'll get to right after this. But when I look at Chris Kirk, he's playing with Adam Hadwin and KH Lee. And Hadwin, I don't mind, honestly. I think it's a decent group, and if you wanted to throw a flyer on Chris Kirk, I think that's fantastic. Denny McCarthy's playing with Matt Every and Harold Varner III. I will say this, when this group is hot, they will shoot really low. But if, say, Matt Every doesn't show up, and neither does Harold Varner III, I don't think this is a good group to be rostering Denny McCarthy. So keep that in mind. I think it's not terrible, and I think it's worth the risk. The next one is Ollie Schneiderjans and Sepp Straka. I really don't care for this group. Ollie Schneiderjans actually played pretty decent a couple weeks ago when he was invited to which one did he just make the cut at? It was before the Masters at the Houston Open. Yeah, I think it was the Houston Open. But then he didn't do well at the RSM Classic. I'm not going to play Ollie Schneiderjans. I don't care, that his scoring average is lower than the field average. I think he's too streaky of a player. That's just me. But here you go. Pair him up with Sepp Straka or David Hearn. Might be decent. An interesting group that isn't highlighted is Gary Woodland, Ricky Fowler, and Abraham Ancer. I like Ancer, and I don't mind Ricky Fowler. Woodland is really the wild card in this group because he was fighting an injury at the end of last season. And really, honestly, I'm not positive how I feel. I'll say this. I am not on the Woodland bandwagon. I'm not saying he's on a bandwagon. Like, I just don't like him. He has to prove to me that he is on the mend or actually past the mend where he is healthy and he is shooting decent rounds of golf. This might actually be a good spot to play him in, especially because the group is good. I mean, Ancer, Fowler, both of those guys set up well in the model. Woodland doesn't because, again, his stats were so bad at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. So it's, it might be worth a play. He is a major winner, so it's all up to you guys, honestly. I wouldn't avoid this group, put it that way. The premier group, the group that has the best golfer, I mean, just look at the ranks that I have for these guys. And again, I'll go over the ranks right after this segment, but 1, 13, and 6, it's the lowest group rank possible by a long shot. And like, these guys are good golfers, and I think they're the type that even if they have bad rounds, they're not going to miss the cut. Like, they can, scrape and claw. I don't know what the cut is going to be. The cut could probably be 4 under, 5 under. I kind of want to see where the cut has been recently, in the past. Looks like it was even par 2018, 3 under in 2019, even again in 2020. So that's really interesting because the scores get really low, and even par ends up being the cut for most of these. -1, -1, -2, and even. So really, it's like averaging out at -1. With that being said, that just makes me like these guys that much more because I think they can get to even and -1 in their sleep. So I really like a Thomas Neiman stack, honestly. I do like Justin Thomas a lot this week. So just by Time Pairings, I will actually include them. And actually, let me go ahead and do that right now. So I have a lineup construction page that helps me keep track of how much I have left remaining, and kind of just does a good job of letting me see how many golfers in like the bucket system, that I have. So bucket system's unfamiliar to you, I recommend watching the preview show. I do also have a bucket system video on my channel. So if you just search for it, you'll find it. And it will explain exactly what it is. But either way, this is a stack that I don't mind playing. So I'm gonna go ahead and just keep that there. Going down, so we have a green and a yellow. Green means Daniel Berger has a scoring average below field average for both recent form and season long. CH3, Charles Howell III, only has a scoring average below field average for recent form. So that's why he is yellow, not both of them green. Now, if Berger only had one, he would also be yellow with CH3. So this isn't a terrible group. They're playing with Ryan Armour, which also isn't a bad golfer, in all honesty. At $6,600, that's not terrible. So if you want to pair those guys up, I'm on board. You can get me on board. An interesting group here, Brian Gay, Pat Perez, and Max Homa. Again, their ranks aren't terrible, but only one of the golfers has a scoring average below field average for recent form, and that's Brian Gay. I really like Brian Gay this week. I'm a little concerned about the withdrawal that he just had. I think he had 2 withdrawals. I'm not sure if it's because he just won a tournament, but either way, I think it was an undisclosed reason, which could just be sheer joy. You know, I'm not sure if he would have been injured. Probably not. You know, he probably was one of those pros that were really grinding, trying to make the cut, trying to make a living, I should say. And the win just catapults him where he doesn't have to worry. You know, 2 years, I think he gets an exemption for. So either way, I'm not concerned about his withdrawal so much. When you pair him up with someone like Pat Perez, who actually has decent course history at this course, I think that's a good pairing. I don't know if these guys really inflate each other's success or even deflate each other's failures. You could actually play with these guys, I think, alone, and it wouldn't matter. Coming down to the next group, Brian Harman, a really interesting conversation. FanDuel has him at the Stone Min, I believe. I think 7K is the min. But either way, if FanDuel's looking at the bucket system, Brian Harman is one of 2 golfers who is a last year 6. Last year 6s don't really show up inside the top 5 or top 6 or top 10. So if they watched the video earlier this week and priced them at that, hey, it makes sense to me. But Brian Harman is a very skilled golfer. I don't necessarily think he's going to not do, well, let's put it this way. He's going to have the ceiling of a top 5 finish. I really don't doubt that. The last year 6 gives me a little bit of pause, but you know, if you're on FanDuel, I don't see why you don't play him, honestly. It just unlocks so many other golfers you can actually play. So I just bring it up because it's funny. His scoring average for both recent form and season long, really good. I think he just misses the last cut, by the way, and I don't think it was anywhere close. So be wary. But also on FanDuel, who cares? You know, Stone Min, do it up. The next group that I want to talk about belongs to Emiliano Grillo, Will Gordon, and Beau Hosler. This is your last year bucket 5 group, like the extraordinaire group. I'm curious to see how this is gonna play out because I've never seen, you know, a bucket score or like this many last year 5 or even last year 6s together. I like Emiliano Grillo a lot. Will Gordon is extremely talented. But what I saw at the RSM Classic was when he needed to hit an okay tee shot off of one of the last holes, totally choked and hit it into trouble. There's a lot of trouble on this golf course. I'm not sure Will Gordon is a good play for this golf course. So I'm probably going to be fading him, but I really like Grillo. So definitely consider that. Not really going to talk about the other golfers here. Sebastian Kaplan, a young guy that I think is very talented. Cameron Percy, kind of an old veteran that can make cuts with ease, relative ease. So decent plays with both of those guys. And playing in a decent group too. Brandon Grace and Aaron Baddeley. You know, those are, I would say, wily veterans. Kaplan's playing with Ventura and Ogletree. A lot of people have been talking about both of those golfers, Christopher and Andy. I really don't have a take on any of them. I think obviously if this is a rising star type of group, hey, we might see a top 10 from this position. Maybe not. Who knows? Coming down here, Harris English, Vaughn Taylor, Henrik Norlander. I don't so much care about Norlander. I mean, Norlander was actually doing really well not too long ago, but he kind of fell off the face of the planet. I'm not sure exactly how or why, but he just hasn't really been playing good golf recently. golfers in his group though, Vaughn Taylor and Harris English, both have been playing some decent golf as of late. Vaughn Taylor last year I think got second place at this tournament. I guess I can just scroll over to double check that. Yeah, second place, and Harris English had fifth. So we might see a top 20 finish, somewhat easily out of Vaughn Taylor. And I think, if you're playing a cash game play, not a terrible golfer to choose from. And if you just want to find, min cash on GPPs, Vaughn Taylor would be a great choice. And especially if you wanted to pair him up with Harris English, not terrible. I personally am not going to put two last year threes together on a lineup. Not saying it's impossible for that to do well, but I'm not going to start there. Like, I might pivot there, so I might have this group in one or two lineups, maybe out of 50, but that's about it. I do like English, and I don't think you're going to go wrong playing any of those two golfers. John Hull, Pierre Malnati, and Bronson Burgoon, another group together that is interesting, all with decent scores for the SweetSpot model. John Hunt I like quite a bit, and he is inside the top 10 for the SweetSpot model. Peter Malnati has been playing pretty good as of late, so I think those two golfers together might be worth a play too. And if I'm actually playing Peter Malnati, I will not be playing anybody in this group, the Grillo, Gordon, or Hosler group. I will not play two last year fives together. I shouldn't say I won't. The only way I'm going to is by pivoting, honestly, and like a pivoting from a core. I don't know if I'll even get there at that point either, but maybe if I see it's those two golfers, I would, because they're both good golfers. Or Malnati with that group of Grillo, Hosler, and Gordon. So yeah, I could, but I don't think I'm going to. And Bronson Burgoon, I don't really care that much for. He did just show up at the RSM Classic, not terrible, but I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. So on to the next group: Will Zalatoris, Joel Damon, and Alex Noren. A very good group and very good, scores in the SweetSpot model. Will Zalatoris, I think this is a perfect golf course for him. He is a ball striking machine. So I do like Zalatoris. As long as he can put the ball in the hole, he can go really low. And if you want to mix him up with Joel Damon or Alex Noren, I think that's a fantastic way to go as well. And it might even be more beneficial to start here with your stacks than, starting elsewhere. But moving on from that, Kevin Streelman is in a group with Rafael Cabrera-Bello and Mark Hubbard. I really like this group too. I don't know what happened to Mark Hubbard as of late, but he was playing really good golf at the end of last season. And I think one of the first two tournaments of this year, but then since has just not played that well at all. But a good group nonetheless. After that, Tony Finau, Corey Connors, Sebastian Munoz signed me up. Love that group. Really like Sebastian Munoz. And actually this SweetSpot score, or the score for that SweetSpot model for these three golfers, really good as well. This would be the second best group for the model. Like, that score together is pretty low, and it's very good. So I don't mind any of those plays, really. Corey Connors probably set up to be pretty decent at this tournament, and I have not heard much about him in the industry, so probably a good play. Scott Piercy, Graham McDowell, DA points. Don't really care. Scott Piercy's kind of on his own in that group. I do like him. Next one after that, Brooks Koepka, Carlos Ortiz, and Brendan Todd. Brendan Todd, the reigning champion, or the defending champion, I should say. Carlos Ortiz just coming off his Houston Open win. Like, I don't know how I feel about, previous champions, or, just recent champions coming in and playing well, but Ortiz's price tag is not terrible. You would think a previous winner in the year, like a couple weeks ago, well, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, would show up a little bit better for pricing. But, it is what it is, I guess. Either way, I like the group, and if you wanted to start with like a Koepka Ortiz combo, sounds great, or even put in Todd. I think that's fine. Going from there, I don't really want to talk about Wise, Duncan, and Mitchell. You know, Wise is by himself there. Not saying those other 2 golfers can't boost him, but I think they could deflate him much faster than they could actually boost him. Kazire, Duffner, and Stricker, don't really care. Kazire's obviously the one that's highlighted here. Definitely the better golfer in the model as well. I don't have one take or another. 8,000, maybe a little too expensive for me. You know, not really returning a lot of value on that price tag. So I'll probably avoid that one. Russell Knox and Austin Cook make up a pretty decent pairing, especially with their price tag. They are playing with Nate Lashley, and I don't find an issue with that group at all. I think it's a very good one, and if you did want to start there, that's actually a really unique way of creating your lineups. Going from there, we have Russell Henley, who is, I think, everyone's favorite for this tournament, essentially, you know, because a lot of people are going to be pivoting from those high-priced golfers to someone in the 9K range, and I don't think Henley is a terrible play. So Henley, Sabatini, and Chesson Hadley are playing together. I think this group of golfers are very much similar to each other, so I think they can get streaky hot and can get very cold as well. So be aware of that. But all in all, I do like that group. Kyle Stanley is playing with Camilo Villegas and Fabian Gomez. I don't care for that group, but obviously Stanley has been playing some decent golf as of late, and has a highlighted game number, so something to consider. Here's an interesting group. Doug Gim, Charlie Hoffman, and JJ Spawn. Now, Gim, Hoffman, and Spawn, not terrible. I shouldn't even say that. I think if you were to ask me, you know, at the end of the last season, or even just last season in general, if I would consider playing JJ Spawn, I'd say hell no. Like, JJ Spawn was good, you know, a couple of years ago, and I think he still can be good, but as of right now, man, I don't see it. But he is highlighted, and he's playing with Doug Gim, who also has been playing some decent golf as of late. So pairing those guys up together might not be terrible. And same with Charlie Hoffman. Like, I don't know what he's been doing recently, but it could be worth the play. And then we got 3 golfers down here. Roger Sloan, Kiradech Affy Barnrat, interesting play there, and Hank Lebioda. All highlighted game numbers here. And honestly, I don't think a bad choice. Just kind of a flyer. So that was the tee time pairings. Let's talk about the sweet spot score. And I'm going to go ahead and sort it from top to bottom. Justin Thomas is the top guy. I think that comes to no surprise. If you want to know how I did this scoring, basically I took the last year bucket, because that is important to my process. We didn't grab any grass stats, last week's stats, or anything like that, since we didn't have anything last week. But really, I weighted recent form average, DraftKings average, scoring average, strokes gained tee to green, off the tee, all of those things together, like recent form as well as season long, added them all up and then ranked them. And you can see Justin Thomas comes up top. Harris English, number 2, Brooks Koepka, number 3. So really the high-end $10,000 golfers, I think, are pretty decently priced. Now, Finau and Berger actually fall below some of these guys here at $9,000, meaning their $10,000 price tag might not be worth it. But one of the more surprising golfers at the top of this sweet spot leaderboard would be John Huh. At $7,400, I don't think it's terrible. He is returning pretty decent value on that price tag. If we look at his recent form, he's been finishing 30th on average. Let me just double check that in the recent form just to see how many tournaments he's been playing. John Huh has a 12th and a 38th, so only 2 events under his belt for this recent form. And I mean, DraftKings points, 78 points. I mean, that's almost 10x of what his salary is. That is pretty darn good. shooting 75% of his rounds in the 70s. Obviously, let's see here. He has 6 rounds out of 8 under 70. That seems pretty good. And then strokes gained, kind of just okay, right? Not the greatest, but pretty good. So John Huh at 7,400 seems like a very good choice. And then we have a bunch of 8 and 9K golfers. Another 7K golfer just underneath John Huh is Doug Gim. So I really don't mind Doug Gim at all. We were talking about him during the tee time pairing, so obviously consider him. And then, you know, I guess it rounds out coming down here to the other 7, 8K golfers. There's Brian Harmon, number 20 in the model. He was 6th at the RSM Classic and missed the cut. So, you know, although he is showing up on the model, there could be something with his game recently that might not be a good fit going forward, or with his price tag or whatever. But I think really we'll get more into the scoring as we go through this video, because it's going to play a role in how I create lineups. But this was kind of your top 20 with the SweetSpot score. It starts with Justin Thomas and ends with Brian Harmon. Brian Harmon is 20th, so just to keep that in mind. Okay, so really what I want to do is kind of I want to talk about the player pool segment that I created, that I showcased in the review during the RSM Classic. I use this to create lineups, and just to give you kind of a visual, here is the RSM Classic, and basically what I have figured out over, gosh, it's been a while. I think it goes back to last season. I have realized that if you look at the headers of these, we tend to see a trend of golfers inside the top 10 that have these combinations of stroke gain stats. So positive off the tee, positive putting, I say 1 to 2 you want to pick from. Positive off the tee, negative putting, you want to pick 2. Negative off the tee, positive putting, 1 to 2, and negative off the tee and negative putting, 0 to 1. You can see this is their finishing position in the column right next to their name. Each one of them, like if you were to go by the rules have this down pat. You know, 1 to 2, you obviously could pick 1 to 2. Probably not going to pick Robert Streb, but you could. Same goes with positive off the tee, negative putting. I see this a lot. I think it's 2 by minimum, but really it probably should be anything over 1. But you can see obviously a lot of golfers here finish inside the top 20. Really, I want to find top 10. So you have 2, 1 to 2 here. You have 2 here. Negative putting, or I should say negative off the tee, positive putting. We have 2 there, and that's pick 1 to 2. And pick 0 to 1, negative off the tee, negative putting. We actually had 3 golfers there. So all across the board, it hit, right? I just didn't know which players they were. And you can see some of these SweetSpot scores next to their names, not the greatest. So I think we need to kind of shore that up. But I also want to say anything less than the 90. You know, 90 might be my threshold of golfers I want to pick. Now, yeah, we do have 111 with Kyle Stanley at the RSM Classic and 147, 132. Actually, let's get rid of that. 132 for a 4th place finish here. But outside of that, everyone else under that 90 mark. And this was a very full field. There was 156 golfers in this one. So maybe that transitions to, you know, the field we're in right now is going to be around 132. Maybe we transition to like 80 golfers, the top 80. Sure, I think there will be some of these, you know, 100s inside the top 10. But for the most part, I'm going to use this model. I want to find golfers in these groups. So that is exactly what I created for the Mayakoba Golf Classic. Same thing. It is all sorted by salary. which again, if we were to go to RSM Classic, that doesn't really matter, much, because in the positive off the tee, positive putting, Robert Streb is your winner. So someone came out of this group, which is awesome, right? Webb Simpson was the favorite. Now, he didn't miss the cut, but he just didn't live up to his price tag. So basically what I did, same thing applies. I went through, I looked at all the stats. That way we don't have to go through here and do like the little sorting game of putting conditionals on these stats, trying to find our best plays. That has already been done in the player pool. So what I'm going to do from here is actually add in a piece that we did during the preview show, which, because we don't have a last week bucket score, because there was no tournament last week, I wanted to use kind of a recent form model. And just to brush you up on that really quickly, I kind of did a bucket system with the recent form during that preview show. You can see all the percentages here of golfers inside the top 10. These percentages are just for that year's tournament. But what I want you guys to focus on is the minimums that we see under these categories. So recent form under 20, recent form 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, above 80, and then no recent form. Obviously, you see top 5s here. We see top 10s as well. Top 10 is what I care about. And I'm actually going to start left to right and try to figure out what the minimum is, or, minimum and maximum. So these three, recent form under 20, 20 to 40, and 40 to 60, show up pretty decent in last year's tournament in 2020. We go to 2019 and take a look at this. Again, pretty good representation out of those three buckets. As we continue going a little bit, we're going to see the numbers change a little bit. So 13 total golfers with recent form under 20 in 2018. In 2019, there were only 9, but we did see 2. 2018, we see 0. I think it's well worth it to try to figure out who those golfers were when it comes to recent form. You can see Pat Perez didn't miss the cut. High Price Guy didn't miss the cut. Same with Bryson and Zach, as well as Kokrak. So, those high price guys, not terrible. Chesson Hadley, on the other hand, missed the cut. Actually, he withdrew. This is a withdraw. So withdraws don't really worry me as much. I mean, a withdraw period worries everybody, even me. But to see that as a result, even having good recent form coming in, is not too concerning. Really, Wyndham Clark, $6,800, but then Ches Reavie at $92. It is like the pricing, DraftKings, and recent form all played a pretty good role. Not so much role, but just they did well together. So to me, it wasn't terrible. Like, the recent form didn't so much lose. I mean, JT Poston, DeChambeau, and Reavie both missed inside top 10 by a stroke, is my guess. We can obviously double check that. 2018. Where are you guys? Yeah. So they missed it by 1 stroke. So it was really close there. And basically what I'm getting at is as I go through this and we look, I'm really wanting to target golfers with recent form under 20. I want at least 2 golfers in my lineups at any one time. I don't want more than 4, but I'm really not trying to get close to 4. This player pool, or this pool of golfers, actually has a pretty decent mix of golfers who have recent form under 20, which basically ends at Scott Piercy here. Sorry, I didn't mean to go that far over. But Scott Piercy is not in this group. We only have these golfers here in that group. There are only 11 to choose from. You can see some of the high-priced guys. You can also see some of the low-priced guys. Doug Gim is in this group. Russell Henley is in this group. Justin Thomas is in this group. Like, this group is chocked full of really good golfers. Now, what we could do is just kind of, filter by condition, go less than or equal to 20. And that will just eliminate everyone else from looking at them. So we can really focus on these golfers. Now, we can go here and try to find our positive off the tee, negative putting guys or positive off the tee, positive putting guys, most of them are positive on both accounts. You know, we're obviously looking at these two columns right here. We want positive and positive. We really don't see it with Patton Kizzire, and we really don't see it with Chesson Hadley. But if I did want to pick two golfers from this, I also want to incorporate or include these buckets here as well. Now, we already know most of these are positive and positive, but I just showed you there were two golfers that had negative and negative. They belong in another group. But either way, I still want to hold true to the two recent form under 20 golfers. So this is my first pool of golfers. I still really like Justin Thomas, but I also really like Doug Ghim for his price. And I don't mind Will Zalatoris. In fact, all these golfers have really good sweet spot scores. I do think it might be a little bit more important to try to figure out when we look at, you know, the last couple of years of the top guys with recent form, how many of them finished inside the top 10 and how many of them were high-priced guys. You know, of the top recent form guys, no one broke the $9,000 salary threshold for last year, which is like that doesn't even compare to this year. If we go to 2019 and try to take a look at this one, let me go ahead and put a filter on that. We have Ricky Fowler, Gary Woodland, and Tony Finau. So this actually works a little bit better in our favor. 16th place finishes for these golfers. I'm guessing Fowler was the most expensive golfer here. Don't mind the Monday qualifier marks. Yeah, so Fowler, Spieth was the second, but his recent form was not good heading into this tournament. All in all, like good recent form and high price really doesn't amount to bad results. And although like the RSM Classic with Webb Simpson not doing that great, he didn't sink your lineups. You just had to have the right golfers in it, right? You're probably not really getting on Robert Streb a lot, but you could have gotten on Cameron Tringali. You could have gotten on someone like Patton Kizzire or Zach Johnson. And you certainly could have gotten on Kevin Kisner. You know, those golfers alone, probably pretty decent or easy to get to. So I don't think we're going to see a repeat of the RSM Classic with the top guy, top favorite guy. And I don't even know, was Webb's recent form good coming into this tournament? I'm pretty sure it probably was, right? Recent form, 13.33. Yeah, he was probably the best, if not one of the best. So actually, the top recent form golfers here, even with their price tags, no one missed the cut that was really of significance. Obviously, no one did the greatest, but still not terrible. So what was Poulter's? He's the, yeah. Okay, so long story short, I do want to pick two golfers from here. And if I'm doing this, I'm either going with my high price guy. So let's put it this way. I think because these golfers are nearly the same price, having something like this, where you have, you know, JT as the high price guy, Brooks not too far behind, and Harris English not too far behind. If I was gonna cascade, you know, lineups, basically what I like to do is fill in this column with nothing but random 6K golfers. Not so much random, like I put percentage of like ownership on these guys and just throw them in this column. So this is going to be taken by somebody or just of golfers. So what I like to do basically is kind of do this little number when I go ahead and cascade. I just do something like this. So I want to get down to here. But basically, you know, we're filling out these lineups here. And when we pivot, I don't mind pivoting like this. So in a way, what I can do in my mind is start here, pick 2 golfers that I like. Obviously, you saw I do like JT and Joaquin Niemann together, but I could easily just go, okay, JT and then somebody who's like 7K. I said I like Doug Gim. We can go that route, you know? So we can go down this road and create, you know, like 19 lineups or whatever it ends up being, and then cascade from there. And then I know these 2 columns are my golfers that have recent form under 20. And if I were to look, you know, 7,400, who are all my guys around that 7,200 and 7,500. So I can use those. Well, I want one more golfer. I don't think 6,700 is really going to hurt me, and it's actually pretty decent to go to. So obviously I want 3 golfers to pivot to. I have Brian Gay, I have Roger Sloan, and I have Chesson Hadley. I think that's decent in itself. If I want to pivot away from Justin Thomas, obviously I can go Brooks Koepka, Harris English, but why not start with like Russell Henley? I do like Russell Henley, and I do like the fact that Joaquin Niemann is $9,100 because obviously I included him here. When I go ahead and pivot from Joaquin, I can get to Russell Henley, and I really like Russell Henley as well. So in this whole, you know, when I stack with these 2 golfers here, I can pivot to some of my other favorite plays pretty easily. So I like that. But again, if we wanted to start a stack, another stack with these recent form golfers, you know, with that are under 20, we can go this route. Where now, sure, I went with Russell Henley. Maybe because he's 9,300, I go somewhere with Patton Kizzire. And now I just see like Will Zalatoris is 9,200. This is fantastic. I think I'm going to start with 2 of these golfers and pivot to those guys because Henley is here, Zalatoris is here. I know there isn't another 9K golfer I can see right now here, but just seeing those 2 guys here, pivoting from Joaquin Niemann, it's just music to my ears. Like, I think starting lineups that way so far seems like the most exciting way to do that. I copied the wrong cell. So there we go. And of course, around 7,300. Now, if you were in the preview video, I will come back to this recent form thing and dig into the lineups. But if you were in the preview, you would have seen that I covered roster construction and really the 2 ranges that you should really focus on. And I even said maybe that's where we should start anchoring our lineups from, were from the 7 and 8K range. So if I go back here, we go to our salaries, we can see over in these 3 groups here, 24.32% of top 10 golfers over the last 3 years have fell under the 8 to 9K range, 32% 7 to 8K range, and nearly 30% below 7K. So these 3 ranges, we can find a very good plethora of golfers to choose from. Obviously, Doug Gim is one of my favorite ones. When it comes to 7K golfers, Patton Kizzire could be a good 8K golfer, but this is just one portion. And also, when we look at our player pools, JT covers the positive off the tee, positive putting. Obviously, so does Joaquin Niemann. You know, I already paired those guys up, but we're looking at recent form under 20. There's Russell Henley, Harris English, Brooks Koepka, John, was he in that group? No. I can also take a look here as to who my positive, you know, off the tee, positive putting guys are. So we have a bunch of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 of them, which if we do start, you know, this route, not terrible. It actually is going to be very beneficial to keep track of this. But if you didn't want to go this route, just remember who you're kind of pivoting to. Obviously, Patton Kizzire, Chesson Hadley might be some of the better plays in the negative off the tee, positive putting group. Okay, so let's move on to the 20 to 40 range. Again, this is going to be a popular group that we will want to target. So 20 to 40. We have a few more golfers here. We have 19 in this group. And again, we could look, at tee to green, positive, I should say positive off the tee, which it looks like a bunch of these guys are with positive putting, which seems like everybody is a positive putter. Just amazing. Well, I guess if your recent form is good, you're going to have good stats, right? I think that makes sense. I do want to just get rid of all of this and see how many negative putters are in this group. Because I'm genuinely curious here. Like, I don't know. I would hope nearly half of the field is a negative putter. 62. So that's almost half. It's close. Not quite, but it's very close. So it just goes to show stats obviously are reflected in your recent form, results. Okay, so we're back here 20 to 40, trying to find our best fits. Now, I'm not going to try to give you all of the answers here. I'm just letting you see the same things that I see. Positive off the tee is something I really do like to target, but finding that negative off the tee and positive putting might be a beneficial thing to do in any of these groups. I'm not necessarily thinking that you should absolutely target, one or the other, but when I see something like a negative off the tee and negative putting, but decent recent form, obviously Ricky Fowler falls under this, but just barely in this group. This gives me kind of a feeling like we need to play Ricky Fowler. And if I was to do that, like, of these lineups, he fits so well in this core here. This might be my 9K core, which I think is a fantastic core. And I don't mind adding it with Justin Thomas as my anchor, with 11K, because I think more of the 7 and 8K golfers are going to really boost our potential when it comes to, the best plays or the better plays. But anyways, let's go back to the spreadsheet. Try to find, maybe we go by salary and try to figure out, who our best players are. Now, Carlos Ortiz, I also really like, and he could be slotted into that position as well. Anything right here. It is very interesting. Like, the more I look at this, the more I like these lineups or lineup possibilities. I kind of want to just keep these for reference points for me when I start creating lineups. I don't want to get rid of them necessarily, but I also don't want to take up space. So if I were to start, we could literally start with a lineup. Let's see here. These are 2 positive stats. I really don't want to constantly find nothing but positive stats. But I guess for reassurance, if I went to the RSM Classic, I could pick 7 golfers out of this positive off the tee, positive putting, and kind of go around them with a core. We see nearly all 3 9K golfers in the RSM Classic here. Obviously Shane Lowry would be one, as would Louis. I think it's not a terrible one to pick on or to use, right? Especially if we could kind of mix and match. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I have a really good idea. Okay. Russell Henley, I like at 9,300. He, again, remember, recent form under 20. I do like Will Zalatoris as well. Recent form under 20 as well. If we were to look here, Carlos Ortiz is going to be that recent form 20 to 40. Sebastian Munoz, I really like as well. But I also like Joaquin Niemann and everyone there. So now these 2 golfers are your 20 to 40 recent form golfers. 6750 isn't something that I actively trying to seek, trying to get to. But if I put all these guys down, so I think what I would rather do is just start with a core. Let's do something like this. go to, I know Doug Gim was one of them, right? So he was a 7K golfer. I think not a terrible one to create lineups around. And then I think maybe we go somewhere like Joaquin Neiman, come back to this pool. Maybe I grab, oh no, I want to grab like a 7K or an 8K golfer. Well, John Huh. John Huh fits that mold for me in so many ways. So now I have $8,400 left. And if I were to mix and match, you know, kind of do the whole cascading method here. Let's bring this down one more so we can do that here. I can, boom, put Zalatoris in. I can go ahead and put Ortiz in. I don't remember everybody. Oh, Ricky Fowler. Yeah, throw Ricky Fowler in there. Although he does belong to the 20 to 40 range, which actually kind of plays well with this, right? Having 3 is not terrible, and having one golfer that has that recent form under 20, not terrible as well. Gim, we would probably have to find, you know, obviously we see it right here. We can substitute any of these golfers here. So why don't we put, you know, like these two and Kirk? Maybe we like those golfers and just boom, throw them right there. This also gives us a little bit of a color palette to be a little diverse when it comes to creating lineups instead of just sticking to the same last year buckets. Joaquin Neiman, obviously I can throw Zalatoris there. Now I have 3, you know, recent form under 20 golfers here, which is not terrible. Could also put Carlos Ortiz there again, and then Ricky Fowler. You know, those guys were all interchangeable, and this is fantastic. Like this, the more and more I do this, the more I get excited when it comes to like creating lineups. Now, I've said that several times now. I should probably cool it. Less than or equal to 20. Let's find our 7K golfers here. Chesson Hadley's one of them. Brian Gay was one of them. And Roger Sloan is obviously we could do that. But let's just pick those 2 golfers to fit right here. And then I really don't want to include Roger Sloan, so I'm not going to. And just put Peter Malnati there. So this incorporates a lot of my favorite golfers. Obviously, we would want to see where some of these guys, you know, stack up in the whole player pool situation. But I have a pretty good feeling, and we can also use the stats here as well to kind of go by. So Peter Malnati, also one of those positive guys. Really don't see anything, you know, out of this group that I'm wondering if it's somewhat beneficial to grab a negative off the tee guy, you know, at least one of them out of these groups, you know, these recent form groups, because as the recent form drops, you know, obviously we're in the 20 to 40 range, but once we go to 40 to 60, these stats are just automatically going to get worse, right? So yeah, we will have more negative off the tee now. Yeah, definitely far more. Well, how many do we have in this group, by the way? We have 40. And out of 40, 20, so half have negative off the tee. And if we look at putting and we go down, 22 have negative putting. So very interesting. And I really shouldn't be using these stats. If I'm being quite honest, I should be using the baseline stats because that's how I usually look week in and week out. So how does this compare? 17, so nearly the same. And 20. So yeah, very close, but probably different golfers. Makes me kind of want to go back to the 20 to 40 range because I was looking at the wrong ones. I don't think it's really going to change. I think these stats are kind of stay the same a little bit. We do see a few more negative off the tee guys. A couple more. 6. So Sebastian Munoz still falls under that. Was he already one of them? No, he was actually positive. He's been positive recently. So maybe that's how we attack this. We look at golfers that kind of have the positive recent form. Let's see, negative putting, Carlos Ortiz. I mean, still a lot of the favorite golfers that I have, Ortiz, Munoz, Fowler, still golfers that I like that I can just interchange. Okay, so I feel better about that. I was kind of going off the rails there for a little bit. So 60 to 40, this is kind of going to tie up this video. So let me get through this as quick as I can. When we look salary from top to bottom, Billy Horschel actually leads this, followed by Mark Leishman, Brian Harmon, and Emiliano Grillo. So I like Grillo like right off the bat. And I think no matter what, I mean, he has the positive off the tee, positive putting. I'm not necessarily afraid of playing a bunch of positive, stat guys. I think probably some of you guys would be like, well, yeah, why would you? Why would you even consider being, scared or afraid or whatever? The thing is, when you have too many of them, I feel a little like it's getting too, maybe not so much too cute. Maybe it's just meant to be, but I'm not entirely positive really on that. To me, I just don't like having all of it the same. But if we were to look at RSM for comfort, obviously we had 7 golfers that finished inside the top 20 that had positive off the tee, positive putting. Maybe I'm trying to get cute, trying to find the exact number of golfers that I want in each of these columns. Again, this is the RSM Classic. I keep coming back to it just for reference. But when we, go back and forth, so I guess, I had my Will Zalatoris here, Emiliano Grillo, Ricky Fowler, Carlos Ortiz. Really like those 4 golfers, but we should not, forget about the golfers down here. Because in the RSM Classic, 69, 111, when it comes to the sweet spot score, sure, lots of good ranks here, but the kind of lower price guys, I didn't really like Matthew Fitzpatrick or Dylan Fratelli, so I don't really care. Okay. I think we have a few more, we have a few more better, that doesn't sound right, but we have better golfers in this field by quite a bit than we did in that one. But the price tags are nearly the same. So anything less than 80 is kind of what we're getting at. I think a lot of these guys are in play. Camilo, Brandon Grace, Adam Schenk, a lot of these golfers down here are in play. So keep that in mind. I don't know if I really have anybody from this group over here. Oh, Doug Gim. Wow, I didn't think Doug Gim would have been there. So perfect. Doug Gim is just the pick, right? Doug Gim's going to win, or he's going to win someone at GPP. That's just how it's going to go. I like that a lot. And then obviously we have Sebastian Munoz, Brian Gay is over there. I think I even have Kyle Stanley in the lineup. Do I? Yeah, right there. This is looking good. Yeah, I do like to create this column again with nothing but 6K golfers, but I guess if I'm creating a cash lineup right now, this is like kind of perfect when it comes to creating a cash lineup. You want a bunch of 8K golfers or near 8K golfers, and this is fantastic. I don't really care to go anything worse than 60, but I guess just to satisfy my curiosity, let me see who's between 60 and 80. Brendan Todd, Harold Varner. So Varner's going to be a favorite play, and really nobody else fits that price tag. Wow. I guess it's not that surprising, but kind of shows you DK does value recent form quite a bit. I really don't like any of these golfers at all. I mean, there'll be 2 that I think I'm going to force myself to play, but by and large, I don't like any of these guys. Is anyone positive off the tee, positive putting? I mean, we do want positive off the tee and negative putting. So Luke List obviously fits that mold pretty nicely, as does Joseph Bramlett. Duffner, Rogers. I mean, here, all these guys. Let me just try to get all of the. So here you go. You only have these guys. These are the only guys with positive. Not very good. Like Harold Varner, maybe. But now I have way too many last year 5s in my lineup, and I don't like that. Pretty decent, salary remaining. So when we do cascade down here, we can pivot to higher price guys that maybe we like a little bit more. But I think maybe what I would do instead of going all 8K is come back to this, change the recent form to 60 to 40 and kind of go by price and actually remove one of the filters, right? Yeah, putting. Remove this filter and try to find someone. I can't even find anyone like high priced for this. I have to go all the way back to like 20 to 40 or better than 20. How about we do this? Less than or equal to 40. And just pick someone that we haven't picked yet. I think a lot of my lineups are just going to essentially have, I think someone in the 9 or like, maybe I just round it all out with Aram Answer. Will that put me in a terrible spot? Everyone's going to be 60, so 6,500 is my lowest. That's right here. That's fine. I actually like this quite a bit. And it really does kind of open up that palette of different colors. For me, that's good because you do want to interchange those. So really starting out a lineup like this, to me, not terrible. And then filling in with random 6Ks. Now, they're not going to be random for me. I want to show you how I do this. I'm going to go ahead and just go none, no filters. We'll keep everything here, but we will throw a filter on salaries. And we'll go less than 7,000. And then we sort by the SweetSpot rank. And basically what I'll do is we want better than 80. Let's see, how many do we have? We have 70 golfers. There are some I just don't care to play, like Armando Favela. Like any of these guys down here, I don't care to play at all. Maybe Scott Harrington and Nick Watney. So I guess what I'll do is I'll handpick some of these guys down here, and then I will go by another condition and go less than or equal to 90. And just throw that there. And then what I'll do is copy all of this and basically go at the top here, paste, all of these in here. Which gives me 36. But then when I go in here, I'm going to cut this down based off of the number. So now I'll just go to here, go to my lineups, do that again. Come here and go up to 70. We'll put Luke List in one more. That's fine. Put that down. And then what I'll do is something like this. This is what I like about Google Sheets when you do these creation things. You can go to this randomized range portion and just hit randomize range a bunch of times and see how close you can get to these being normal numbers. Now, obviously, Will Gordon, I can put him off to the side here. Maybe throw Brian Stewart in there. Nope, can't do that. Now I'm actually gonna pick who my favorite 6K golfer is. What do I need? 6,700. I'm sure I can just go here faster and find my favorite 6,700. Put Roger Sloan in there. Perfect. So Roger Sloan is right there, but this is how I would do it. This gives me a randomized 6K golfer because I think that's going to be important. And I am using the SweetSpot model to kind of generate, how this will look for me. So these lineups here, I think are pretty good. Now, I do have to do one more thing. So this would actually go down here a couple more times. And now these three are open to replace Aram Answer with somebody. So I can clear this. And I just want to find someone around Abe Answer's price tag. And I think I can go, what direction can I go? 10-7, 9-9, 10-1. Wow. So obviously 10-1 for me, it's going to be Harris English. That's easy. 9-9. We'll go Victor Hovland since we don't have any Hovland. And 10-7. Awesome. Love it. Tony Finau. Perfect. So right there. For me, I love creating lineups and kind of using this type of model, going through and doing that. Now I can go and check to see what type of stats Russell Henley has, but we kind of already did that, right? Same with Doug Gim. We know these two guys have positive, and are recent form under 20. We know these two guys, I think, are also positive. I'm not positive on that. Neiman, where are you? Neiman's got to be at the top here. So he's positive. Let's see here. Where is John Huh? John Huh is also positive. Of course. Was Doug Gim? I can't remember. I think he was in one of these other columns, wasn't he? What is your rank, Gim? There he is. So we have a negative positive. That's perfect. Great. So those three they're okay. I know English is going to be over here, positive, and then Johnny Vegas. No idea where Vegas is. He is positive. So I have 5 golfers positive. I'm not going to get too cute with everything. I think that's going to be fine. But when it comes to some of my other lineups, I am going to try to find that perfect combination. And it's really just trying to figure out a core and then pivoting to. You know, this kind of matched up pretty nicely when it came to creating lineups. And again, I am going to keep this. I'm not sure how I feel about these golfers here, but these are your wild cards. Like, you have to look at the 6K range that way, in my opinion. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I think before this video gets any longer, I should just cut it as soon as possible. I do want to go. Well, I do want to cover one thing. If we were doing this slightly different, you know, I would probably, let me create one lineup for you guys that incorporates like everything. So Justin Thomas, I like that. Let's see, go to maybe a Grillo. What do we have? 7,900. How about we go Carlos Ortiz? 76. Okay, we can do that. I do like Doug Gim, so I'll put Gim here. I'm just picking one so far out of all of these. And I do like Munoz. Like, Munoz is a favorite golfer of mine. So 7,100 we have left. I don't know how I feel about that. That doesn't make me feel all that great. So I do like Munoz. I don't think I want to change from Munoz to anybody else. I guess maybe Brian Gay if I were to choose one. But I do like Gim, and I like Malnati. Obviously, we can pivot to those golfers pretty easy. I don't mind Scott Piercy. You know, someone that's 7,900 or 7,900. Maybe if I'm thinking of anyone that's 7,100 or less, I'm gonna go over to the positive. I mean, I like Wesley Bryan. He's the 93rd on the model, which is not good. But I do like Wesley Bryan. I don't mind a lineup like that. And if I were to do this, I mean, I could do this several times. We could go Justin Thomas to, you know, maybe Benny Ann. Probably not, but that is a possibility. Now that I look at this group, I really, if I need to pick 2 out of this group, I'm not positive where I start outside of Fowler or Zalatoris or even Carlos Ortiz. I mean, I guess I don't mind Keegan Bradley. He's pretty decent on the ranking. I don't know. I'll have to really deep dive into this, but here, what I'll do, I'll go slowly. You can see all of the different columns with all the golfers in them. That way, if you want to screenshot this, this is your opportunity to. But you can see all the golfers here. Let's see. I'm just going to go straight down. So to Charlie Hoffman. Actually, I guess Charlie Hoffman, Adam Schenk. So there you go. These golfers. Let's go down. Now you can see the bottom here. Let's go over the other two columns over on the other side. Berger down to Hearn and Watney. And then Cameron Percy and down. So there are your columns that you can choose your golfers from. I am missing, I think, 5 golfers from this field because DraftKings didn't add them before I created this video. So I don't know. It's a fun way to create lineups. Hopefully you saw some golfers you like. Maybe this gave you a little bit more conviction to play some of the other guys. But other than that, let me know how you feel. Like, give me some comments. I want some feedback. You can either provide them in the YouTube comments below or email me. You can also DM me on Twitter. It's probably best you DM me on Twitter, but I do get to my emails. I probably check it maybe once or twice a week. So I will return your messages on feedback. Love getting any kind of feedback, so please do so. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe and like, and then hit that notification bell so you can see whenever I post videos. But yeah, we're going to end it right there. I apologize if I excluded anything that I said I was going to include. I'm kind of spent right now. I can't remember all of the things I would have gone over, but either way, thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and let's win some money before the end of the year. All right, see you later.